Mr. President, are you deploying the additional troops to the region for deterrence or to optimize your operational capabilities? The answer came not in words, but in motion. Across America and its allied bases, the most powerful military machine on Earth was already in motion, and what happened next was a masterclass in modern military power projection. The order was simple, but its consequences were enormous. 20,000 troops brought to combat readiness. In barracks across the country, soldiers dropped whatever they were doing and began preparing for war. Rucksacks were packed with the essentials of survival: clothing, hygiene kits, first aid supplies, rations, and the personal items a soldier carries when he doesn't know when he's coming home. Transport trucks pulled up to staging areas, and without ceremony or hesitation, thousands of men and women climbed aboard. Nobody knew exactly how long they'd be gone. Nobody asked. That's the nature of military service. You go when called, you go where sent, and you trust that the mission is worth it. These soldiers weren't heading to a training exercise. They were heading to the Middle East, to a region already on fire, and they carried with them the full weight of American military commitment. While conventional forces were loading onto trucks, America's airborne units were preparing for something far more dramatic. Paratroopers are a different breed of soldier. They don't wait for roads, they don't wait for ports, they fall from the sky directly into the fight. These warriors had already rigged their main parachutes to their backs and reserve chutes to their chests. They carried their weapons in soft rifle cases, slung alongside combat packs loaded with everything they'd need to fight and survive the moment their boots hit the ground. Moving in two long columns toward waiting C-17 Globemaster III aircraft, their ramps already lowered like open mouths, these paratroopers embodied the principle of vertical envelopment, the ability to bypass conventional obstacles and appear exactly where the enemy least expects. This is the kind of capability that has defined American airborne operations since the legendary drops of World War II, and it remains just as lethal and just as decisive today. High above the ground, in a different kind of aircraft entirely, the most feared bomber in America's arsenal was preparing to make its own statement. The B-52H Stratofortress is not a subtle weapon. It was designed during the Cold War to deliver nuclear devastation, and decades later it still carries the full burden of American strategic power. Ground crews worked methodically, loading 2,000-pound Mark 84 general-purpose bombs onto the aircraft, each one nearly 13 feet long, each one capable of obliterating an entire city block. Forklifts and bomb loaders moved these massive weapons one at a time, hoisting them into the internal rotary launcher or mounting them on the external wing pylons. Every bomb was locked, every arming wire connected, every weapon secured. This was not a show of force. This was the preparation for destruction on an industrial scale, and the aircraft would carry this payload for hours at high altitude before releasing it deep inside Iranian territory. Inside the B-52's crew room, the men who would fly this mission went through their own quiet preparations. They tested oxygen masks, verified regulators, adjusted fit. A flight that could last over 12 hours at high altitude demands that every system function perfectly, because at those altitudes, a failed oxygen regulator isn't an inconvenience. It's a death sentence. The crew packed water, snacks, maps, checklists, spare gloves, and survival kits. These are not glamorous preparations. There is nothing cinematic about checking a checklist for the 14th time, but it is in this meticulous attention to detail that lives are saved and missions succeed. When they finally walked out to the aircraft and climbed into their ejection seats, these men carried the full weight of their training and the lives of everyone below them who were counting on their bombs to hit exactly the right targets. At sea, an aircraft carrier had become a launching platform for yet another element of this complex operation. Marines, already combat-ready, walked across the flight deck toward a Sikorsky CH-53E Super Stallion helicopter, its massive rotors folded flat against its fuselage. This aircraft is the heaviest helicopter in the American inventory, capable of lifting an M198 howitzer, capable of carrying dozens of fully equipped Marines deep into hostile territory. The Marines loaded through the aft ramp, took their seats, and lifted off into the sky, bound for a forward camp being established near the Iranian border. What makes this moment significant is what it represents: the seamless integration of naval power and ground combat power, the ability of the United States military to project force from the sea to the land with speed and precision that no adversary can easily counter or predict. Simultaneously, across Allied airfields throughout the region, UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters were conducting a constant shuttle operation, moving soldiers from staging bases to forward positions in a relentless rhythm of short flights. Land, unload, return, reload, repeat. It is unglamorous, it is exhausting, and it is absolutely essential. Modern warfare is not won by dramatic single moments alone. It is won by logistics, by the grinding, tireless work of getting the right people to the right place at the right time. These Black Hawk crews flew mission after mission, their aircraft beating through the desert air, delivering the human fuel that a military operation consumes by the thousands. Without this constant flow of personnel, the entire operation would grind to a halt before it ever truly began. Then came the moment every paratrooper trains for. As the C-17 reached the drop zone, the jumpmasters gave their commands. The paratroopers stood, hooked up, checked their static lines, and one by one they threw themselves into the open sky. Parachutes bloomed in a long trail behind the aircraft. Within minutes, an entire combat force had descended from the sky and was already on the ground, moving to rally points, collecting their equipment, linking up with vehicles and supplies that had arrived separately by air. This is the beauty and the brutality of airborne operations. The chaos of the jump followed immediately by the discipline of trained soldiers who know exactly what to do the moment their feet touch the earth. Every element of the operation converged on its designated position. Paratroopers linked with their vehicles. Marines reached their sector. Soldiers transported by Black Hawk were at their posts. The armor and heavy equipment were en route. The camp was being established, communications were going up, ammunition was being distributed, and fighting positions were being dug. The force was fully assembled, fully equipped, and ready for combat operations. This is the reality behind the words military power. It is not a speech or a press conference or a tweet. It is thousands of individual decisions, thousands of individual preparations, thousands of soldiers, airmen, and Marines doing their jobs with absolute professionalism under the shadow of war. America had spoken, not with words, but with 20,000 troops, a B-52 loaded with 2,000-pound bombs, paratroopers falling from the sky, and Marines flying off an aircraft carrier into the heart of the Middle East. The message was unmistakable, the capability was undeniable, and somewhere near the Iranian border, as one soldier turned to another and said, "They're about to do a gun run, get down," the full meaning of American military power projection became impossible to ignore.